Welcome to today's live reading from Brilliant as the Sun, a retelling of Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 1, the Sages of Naimisharanya, and at the moment we have made it to the third chapter of this book. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya, Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya, Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Sutta lists the incarnations of Vishnu which appear in the current epoch. He explains why the universal form of God known as Virat Roop is not included in that list, and also describes how one can achieve self-realization. He ends with a brief description of Srimad Bhagavatam. In doing so, he answers the sage's sixth question. My dear Sutta, this is from chapter 3 of Canto 1, 15th verses 1 to 5. My dear Sutta, please tell us more about the Lord's incarnations, said Shaunak. We are keen to hear everything you know about his pastimes. Sutta replied, the first incarnation, the Purush avatar, creates the cosmic manifestation. From him came Brahma, the master engineer of the universe. Sutta explained that although there is one Purusha avatar, also called the Super Soul, he manifests in three stages. The first is Mahavishnu, who lies in the Karan or the causal ocean, the basis of creation. Each time he exhales, countless universes emanate from the pores of his transcendental body. When he again, Mahavishnu expands himself into each universe, and this expansion is known as Garbhodakshai Vishnu. Lying in the ocean at the bottom of the universal egg, he provides the ingredients for creation such as earth, water, fire, air, and other essential components. These are manifested along with Brahma. He expands again as Kshirodakshai Vishnu, who enters every atom of the universe as well as the hearts of all beings, which you know as Super Soul or the Paramatma. Sutta continued, it is said that all the planets in the universe lie on the extensive body of Garbhodakshai Vishnu. Nevertheless, he is fully and eternally spiritual. Through him come the divine incarnations who descend into the material world. He is the source of the gods and all species of life. The Purush avatar is generally not perceivable. By the Lord's grace, his pure devotee may sometimes see him with his thousands of faces, decorated with shining helmets and adorned with glowing earrings and garlands. Arjun saw that form just before the battle of Kurukshetra commenced. Now, from the third chapter, verses 6 to 7. Sutta then enumerated the Lord's other incarnations who come through the Purush avatar. First were the four Kumar brothers, sons of Brahma, who followed the strict vow of celibacy and underwent severe austerities. Next came Varaha, the boar incarnation, who rescued the earth when it fell into the nether regions, that is the lower regions. Now from the third chapter, Canto 1, verses 8 to 9. Third was the godly sage Narad, who compiled expositions of the Vedas explaining Bhakti Yoga. He was followed by Naranarayan, the twin ascetic sons of the great king Dharma, who lived in Badrika Ashram in the Himalayas. Because they appeared as twins, they are considered a single incarnation. So Naranarayan Rishis, they are considered single incarnation because they appeared as twins. Now from the third chapter, verses 10 to 12, they were followed by Lord Kapila, foremost among the Siddhas or perfect mystics. He taught the Sankhya system of philosophy which frees one from the material entanglement. Then came the Tattreya, who also expounded Sankhya philosophy, and after there appeared Yajna, who occupied the post of the chief god Indra. Chapter 3, verses 13 to 15. The eighth incarnation was Lord Rishabh, who taught the path of spiritual perfection to his 100 sons. After this was Prithu, the ideal king who made the earth productive and beautiful. Then came the fish incarnation Matsya, assuming an immense form. He saved Vaivasvata Manu, the leader of mankind, from the waters of inundation. Chapter 3, verse 16 to 17. In his 11th incarnation, the Lord became the turtle Kurma, who assisted the gods and demons in churning the milk ocean to produce the nectar of immortality. After this appeared Dhanvantari, who brought the nectar and later taught Ayurveda. He was followed by the exquisitely beautiful female incarnation Mohini, who tricked the demons and thereby enabled the gods to drink the nectar. Chapter 3, verses 18 to 21. The fierce lion-headed Nrsingadev descended as the 14th incarnation. He tore open the chest of the invincible demon Hiranyakashipu just as a basket weaver splits the reeds. Then there appeared Vaman, the dwarf incarnation, whose 2 steps incredibly spanned the entire universe, thereby winning it back from the demon king Bali for the sake of the gods. Next came Parshuram, who annihilated the deviant rulers of the earth in 21 great battles. He was followed by Vyasadeva, who compiled the Vedas. Chapter 3, verses 22 to 23. When the gods prayed for deliverance from the powerful Rakshas monarch Ravan, the Lord appeared in his 18th incarnation as Ramchandra. In the next 2 incarnations, the 19th and the 20th, he came as Balaram and Krishna, who relieved the earth of her burden of militaristic kings. Chapter 3, verses 24 to 25. There are also 2 avatars yet to appear. The first is Buddha, who will take birth in Gaya. Although not presenting himself as God, he will teach a philosophy which will convince the atheists to accept his authority. The final incarnation is Kalki, who comes at the twilight of Kali Yuga to kill many degraded leaders who will cause great disturbances. He will thereby re-establish religion and usher in a new golden age. Chapter 3, verse 26. Immersed in thoughts of the Lord, Sutta became stunned with ecstatic feelings. After some moments, he said, O sages, know that Krishna's incarnations are unlimited, like rivulets flowing from an inexhaustible lake. They appear whenever the spiritually ignorant create disorder. His purpose is to protect the pious. Chapter 3, verse 27. Sutta explained that since the sages, gods, universal leaders, and great progenitors who populate the universe are all empowered by the Lord's divine potency, they are also considered avatars. Chapter 3, verse 28. Shaunak said, I thought Krishna was supreme. Why do you say that he, like all the other avatars, comes from the Purush avatar, Garbhodakshai Vishnu? Sutta immediately replied, do not misunderstand. Although I included Krishna in this list of incarnations, you should know that he is their source. All divinities are either his direct or subsidiary parts. Krishna is the original Supreme Personality of Godhead. Everything comes from him, including Vishnu. Therefore, to serve Krishna with love is life's ultimate goal. Chapter 3, verse 29, Sutta stressed that only when our loving service attitude towards Krishna is awakened can we get full and permanent relief from misery. To achieve this, we must carefully hear and discuss the mysteries of his appearance with faith every morning and evening. Shaunak raised a doubt. Dear Sutta, why did you not include in your list of incarnations the cosmic arrangement of the planets known as the Virat Roop? Many sages meditate on this as the Lord's universal form. Chapter 3, verse 30, Sutta replied, the Virat Roop is an imaginary conception meant to help neophyte worshippers who cannot accept God's spiritual form and personality. Since they can only think in material terms, they believe that if God has a form, it limits him. By meditating on the Virat Roop, gradually they adjust to the idea that God is a person. Shukadev also described this meditation to Parikshit. However, because the cosmos is not Krishna's true form, I have not included the Virat Roop in the list of the incarnations. Chapter 3, verse 31. Revered Sutta, this is confusing. If the universe is not the Lord, then how can such meditation have any value? The other sages in the assembly nodded their heads in appreciation of the question. After a moment's thought, Sutta replied, consider this example. Although both the air and sky are invisible, we refer to the air as dusty or sky as cloudy. The dust and clouds help us to perceive the existence of the air and the sky. Similarly, by seeing the planetary systems as Krishna's personal form, the spiritual novice begins to appreciate that the Lord is a person. However, the actual all-pervasive spiritual form of the Lord is invisible. It is also eternal and indestructible, unlike the planetary systems. Chapter 3, verse 32. Knowing that some yogis meditate on a subtle form of the universe which is unseen, unheard, and unmanifest, Shaunak mentioned this and asked, is this a spiritual form of God? Sutta replied, no, this is also material. Shaunak looked thoughtful. Since it can be neither seen nor heard, then it is also imaginary. No, the subtle form exists. It is the cause of the gross and the physical form. How can this form be understood? It is like the subtle body of the living being, which carries him from one physical body to another. Just as the living being has his gross and subtle bodies, so does the universe. And as the living being is the soul within the body, so the Lord is the soul of the universe beyond both its gross and subtle forms. Chapter 3, verse 33. Since both these meditations are material, please explain how one can conceive of spirit. By the proper culture of transcendental knowledge, one gradually becomes indifferent to the needs of both the subtle and gross material bodies. Only then are we eligible to see both our eternal spiritual nature as well as the Lord's. Chapter 3, verse 34. Shaunak looked troubled. How is it possible to become detached from the demands of the mind and senses, especially in Kali Yuga? People will find it very difficult. This is only possible by Krishna's grace, replied Sutta. When we see the soul sincerely trying to reach him and praying for release from ignorance, the Lord lifts the curtain of illusion and reveals himself in his all-pervasive spiritual nature. From this position of Brahman realization, the repentant soul begins pure devotional service, shining in his own spiritual glory. Chapter 3, verse 35. So are you saying that we should stop meditating on the gross and subtle forms of the material universe? Asked Shaunak. Sutta nodded. Those who are wise reject both of those forms and instead worship the unborn Lord, who has no material form or activities and who resides in the heart as a super soul. This is the highest knowledge given in the Vedas. The assembled sages looked thoughtful. As Shaunak scanned their faces, he felt assured that they accepted Sutta's instruction. He decided to focus his questions more on doubt about the difference between the living beings and the super soul and the supreme soul. Chapter 3, verse 36. Shaunak asked, if the soul, like the Lord, is also constitutionally spiritual, how is it that our birth and activities are material, but his are not? Sutta explained that unlike the living entities, the Lord is never attracted to worldly pleasures. Krishna is the abode of all wealth, power, beauty, fame, wisdom, and detachment. He is therefore not influenced by lust, greed, envy, or any other material quality. His only reason for coming to the material world is to benefit the fallen souls whom he accompanies within their hearts. He creates, maintains, and destroys the cosmos without being at all affected by material consciousness. Chapter 3, verse 37. Shaunak looked doubtful. It certainly seemed that Krishna was bewildered by sense objects like an ordinary man. How can we accept that Krishna is not affected by lust? Did he not have many girlfriends whilst a youth and later marry thousands of beautiful queens? Sutta replied, Krishna cannot be known by observation or mental speculation. No one can understand the Lord's pastimes, names and forms with the material mind, nor explain them by their words, since Krishna is beyond the purview of both. Chapter 3, verse 38. Then how can the Lord be known? Only by rendering unreserved, uninterrupted, favorable service to Krishna can one know him in his glory, power, and transcendence. Chapter 3, verse 39. Shaunak felt hopeless. The only way to render such continuous service to Krishna was out of pure love. With bowed head he said, How lamentable is my situation, for I have no love for Krishna. How can I ever know him? Chapter 3, verses 40 to 42. The other sages present voiced agreement, shaking their heads in despair at their own lack of devotion. Sutta said, O learned ones, you are all most fortunate. Inquiring about Krishna and trying to understand the answers is the means of invoking our love of God. Krishna, the proprietor of the universe, guarantees immunity from the dreadful repetition of birth and death to those who seriously make such enquiries. Fixing their eyes on Sutta the way of a drowning man might stare at a rope thrown to him, the sages regained their hope. Shaunak said, Please tell us what we need to hear and understand. Sutta replied, I shall recite to you the beautiful Srimad Bhagavatam, the literary incarnation of God, containing selected histories of great devotees who are in direct contact with the Lord. Vyasadeva extracted the cream of the Vedas to compile this unique literature for the benefit of all. Then he taught it to his own son Shukadev. He in turn delivered these teachings to King Parikshit as he sat surrounded by sages on the bank of the Ganges, where he had retired to fast until death. Chapter 3, verse 43. Recalling the sixth of the sages' original question, Sutta said, Srimad Bhagavatam is brilliant like the sun. It appeared just after Krishna returned to his own abode, accompanied by religion and knowledge. People in Kali Yuga who are suffering due to ignorance can get guidance from this literature. Chapter 3, verse 44. Remembering his own spiritual master, Sutta humbly bowed his head. As you know, I had extraordinary opportunity to hear Shukadev instruct King Parikshit. Since I listened to that conversation with rapt attention, Shukadev bestowed his mercy upon me. Thus I was able to understand the Bhagavatam. I shall try to help you comprehend it in the same way, exactly as I understood it from him. We'll continue from chapter 4 next time. From Brilliant as the Sun, a retelling of Srimad Bhagavatam by His Grace Krishna Dhamma Prabhu and Chintamani Dham Mataji. So, thank you for joining in this reading with me. I shall see you next time. Wish you all a happy weekend. Hariam Tat Sadan, Hare Krishna.